In 1916, this devastated landscape became the setting for one of the longest and bloodiest battles in human history. For 303 days, French and German soldiers fought beneath an almost continuous storm of artillery fire. Hundreds of thousands were killed or wounded for land that often changed hands only a few times. Animated map of Europe in 1916 showing Germany, France, and the Western Front glowing across the continent. German and Allied armies faced each other across hundreds of miles of trenches. Verdun stood in northeastern France beside the Meuse River, surrounded by forts and defensive positions. For generations, Verdun had protected France from invasion from the east. German commanders believed France would defend Verdun at almost any cost. General Erich von Falkenhayn planned to draw the French army into a battle of destruction. Germany hoped to use artillery and repeated attacks to exhaust France faster than Germany itself. But France had reduced Verdun's defenses before the battle began. Several forts had lost soldiers and artillery because French leaders believed permanent fortresses were becoming outdated. Meanwhile, Germany quietly concentrated troops, ammunition, and heavy guns around Verdun. On the night before the attack, many French defenders had no idea what was about to begin. On February 21, 1916, the German offensive began. Hundreds of German guns opened fire across the French defensive zone. Explosions destroyed trenches, communication lines, roads, and entire sections of forest. After the bombardment, German infantry advanced, expecting little resistance. But surviving French defenders emerged from the destruction and began firing. At Bois de Cours, Colonel Émile Driant and his men delayed the German advance. Outnumbered and isolated, they fought for nearly 2 days before their position collapsed. The German army now moved toward Verdun's most powerful fortress, Fort Douaumont. Douaumont was the largest fort in the Verdun defensive system, but its garrison had been greatly reduced. On February 25th, German soldiers entered the fort and captured it with surprisingly little resistance. The loss shocked France and created fears that Verdun itself would soon fall. General Philippe Pétain was appointed to organize the defense. Pétain strengthened artillery coordination, improved communication, and ordered reinforcements forward. French divisions were rotated through Verdun so that no single unit remained until it was completely destroyed. The entire defense depended on one road known as the Voie Sacrée, or Sacred Way. Vehicles delivered troops, food and ammunition continuously while carrying the wounded back from the front. Road crews worked constantly because even a short interruption could endanger the entire defense. The words, "They shall not pass," became the symbol of French determination at Verdun. The Germans expanded their attack to silence French artillery west of the Meuse River. Le Mort-Homme, meaning the dead man, became one of the most fiercely contested positions. Nearby Hill 304 was bombarded so heavily that its shape and height were permanently changed. Many soldiers no longer lived in trenches. They survived inside shell holes under constant fire. Food and water were difficult to deliver, and wounded men sometimes waited for hours before receiving help. The endless explosions caused fear, confusion, and psychological trauma among soldiers on both sides. In June, German forces launched a determined assault against Fort Vaux. The battle moved into narrow tunnels where soldiers fought at extremely close range. The French defenders resisted until their food, ammunition, and drinking water were almost completely gone. On June 7th, Fort Vaux surrendered after one of the battle's most courageous defenses. In July, the Allied offensive on the Somme forced Germany to divide its soldiers and artillery. In October, French counterattacks recaptured Fort Douaumont, followed soon afterward by Fort Vaux. The battle ended in December 1916. France held Verdun, but nearly 700,000 French and German soldiers had been killed, wounded, or reported missing. Verdun became a lasting symbol of courage, sacrifice, and the terrible futility of war.